Oh, is it recording? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we get into the agenda, Jeff is out sick today. Andy is a little under the weather, but did chime in, and he's with us on the telephone computer thing. So we do need to have, I need a motion to accept or allow remote participation.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, it's gonna be a roll call. Nate?
Yes.
Kendra?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Andy, are you in there?
Yes, I am.
All right, so at any point you want to chime in, you are unmuted. Just speak up and we will let you in. Votes are all going to be roll call tonight because you're remote. Any questions?
No.
Okay. All right, we have a relatively simple schedule agenda tonight. Let's go to public comments for anybody that has public. Is there one more? I assume you have public comments?
I do.
All right, fire away, sir.
Big Whitmore North Road. So I noticed on the agenda, really the only thing is the warrant articles. So I'd say my attendance at the meetings has been pretty good for the past 2 years. And within the last year, I have seen many Deerfield residents that are speaking in favor of high school choice. And I don't recall hearing anyone come in and demand that we should be pursuing a contract only with Concord High School. I actually brought a few documents that have been circulating around. So the first one, let's see, 4/7/21 was a survey done by the DCS School Board. And this is community desired high schools. There were 200 responses. And I don't expect you to see all the little fine print there, but that giant blue section that occupies almost 75% of the pie chart are people that said they wanted Co-Brown as their option, right? Yes.
Was that done by the school board or by?
It says 4/7/21 survey by DCS School Board, 200
Was that the
responses.
subcommittee?
It was a subject.
That was a subcommittee.
It was
Deerfield.
presented, on that date, it was presented to the
It was
school.
presented to the school board on
To the
that day.
school
That was
board.
done by a subcommittee.
Okay.
For accuracy.
All right.
Thank you.
So we can see that Concord occupies, I don't know, maybe 15% of the slice here. We have several other schools, Pembroke Academy, Deerfield High School, which doesn't exist, but I assume that's a request for a Deerfield High School. But I mean, it's pretty convincing data right there, what the town's looking for. I have another one floating around that was done by the same committee, the High School Choice Committee. And whenever I talk with people in town about this issue with, do other schools want us? Yes or no? Will they be able to take us? Apparently we have all that information right here. And it looks like Co-Brown, Concord, Dover, Epping, Londonderry, Manchester Central, Pembroke, Pinkerton, Pittsfield, and Raymond all said they would take all of our kids or some of our kids and would act as a school of record. Bow said they would take just some of our kids and not be a school of record. And Prospect Mountain said they'd take all or some and maybe be a school of record. So we have so many options out there, right? We, of course, had the vote a few years ago with the warrant article, and the town, voted very strongly in support of this. So I think what it really comes down to is I feel that a school board should represent the views of the residents. And I think the residents have made it clear multiple times what they're looking for. And I know that's not what's going to show up on a warrant article tonight. I mean, I've seen them in print and, I know what they are and I know what you're going to push forward. But I really feel like you're doing things backwards, right? Based on what the schools, or based on what the town was asking, this would have been the year to present high school options to the town. You should have said, hey, we spoke to schools. They all agree they could take us. What do you think? Do you want 2 schools? Do you want 3 schools? So on and so forth. If that fails, then you'd say, aha, come back next year and pursue a single school. But that single school should be of the town's choosing. Not of the school board's choosing, of the town's choosing. And I assume you have heard, but I just want to make sure that on Tuesday, February 7th, from 6:30 to 8:30 at the George B. White Building, there's going to be a Q&A forum relative to current school choice options and possibilities for New Hampshire school districts under current New Hampshire law and New Hampshire Department of Education rules. I would certainly love to see everyone here at that meeting. I think it would be a great opportunity for you to ask, let's see, Frank Edelbutt is going to be there, Commissioner of Education, Richard Sala, State Board of Education, and the Honorable Glenn Cordelli, who's a state rep. Talk to them about school choice and just see who's in the room and see what the discussion is. You know, it would be beneficial to everybody and, you know, really answer a lot of questions. One other thing, I don't know if this exists, but if it does, it would be great to make it public knowledge. Do we have school performance data starting with the incorporation of competency-based education, competency-based grading? Anybody know if that exists?
The school report cards are on the Department of Ed website for
Yeah.
how far back they go, but they're probably a pretty long history.
Can we find out when competency-based was specifically implemented at DCS?
We have that, we just have to go back and look to see the year. We can find out what year. it
Okay,
was.
yeah, because I'd like to see, you know, how we've fared since that incorporation and just start to make some comparisons. All right, so hope to see you all there at that, and, you know, sure I'll see you multiple times before then. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes, I'm assuming you have comments?
Comment, well, maybe a comment, maybe not. Mr. Whitmore just made reference to a proposed February 7th discussion, I guess. Was that proposed for here at all,
Or,
to be held here?
no,
It wasn't?
no,
Okay.
Nobody contacted us.
Is that
they didn't
right?
contact the board at least. I don't know if they
Okay.
contacted
Nobody contacted.
anybody in the building.
And the speakers at that, is that a representative group of unbiased speakers, not knowledgeable speakers?
It's two different things.
It's not, it's,
No,
yeah, I mean, it's not our event, so.
It's not our event and it's not our,
But they are in your chain of command. Edelblut certainly is.
well,
He's the state commissioner.
he's the
Yeah.
Commissioner of Education,
You know, he's an appointee, is he not?
Yes.
yes,
Not elected.
correct.
Okay. And the other,
Confirmed by the exec council.
Yes.
Executive board.
Yeah.
And the other speakers, I have, I would say if you're interested in what their thoughts are on education, there's enough documentation out there to determine
whether or not it's
an unbiased group.
an unbiased group.
But I would leave that determination to whoever wants to do the research.
Do the research. Okay. But you never approached here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, agenda review. Anybody?
Yes.
Yes.
We just have to have a conversation about a deputy clerk at some point.
All right, so why don't we, let's just put that in as 5B.
Okay.
That works for everybody? Clerks. Okay, anything else from the board members that they want to discuss tonight? It is a few days before Christmas, so I think an easy meeting is probably okay with everybody.
Fine with me.
Andy, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. He's eating dinner right now. I just wanted to know that he's.
Do we need a non-public?
We don't need
I
it
don't
on
think
public?
so.
Okay. So let's move on to the warrant articles. Patty, if you like.
As soon as I can get my copy in front of me. There we go. All right. So number one, unless anybody had any
Oh,
reconsideration,
yeah,
was voted on.
Hold on. Yeah, we'll just go back to this. Just as
Okay.
You have.
Did you put the warrant articles in the packet, Mrs. Liddy?
I didn't have them in my,
They're in the drive.
when I went to print it.
All right. Can somebody print the warrant articles while we discuss deputizing the clerk? Because I didn't bring the computer with me.
Sure.
I apologize.
So,
I'll be happy to know that I have 3 monitors right now. Zach.
Do you? Yeah. I appreciate that, Andy. Okay. So,
so we have a request from both
We
Kelly.
can't put a timer on Patty, I get in trouble.
Please stop me
Patty.
anytime. For Diane Kimball and Kelly Roberts to be deputy clerks. Right now, we have an opening for school district clerk. They are willing to be the deputy clerk so that they can, if we don't fill the position, they can accept filings for office on our behalf, because we really need somebody to take responsibility for that. So they sent along forms through Kendra to have the board vote to have them be deputy clerks, and that they would be willing to do that. So if we could take care of that first, and then I can talk to you about the posting for the clerk
All right,
position.
so we would need a
Motion.
motion to accept Kelly Roberts and Diane Kimball.
Yeah.
As deputy clerks for the school district.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So this will allow us, this will give us the ability, they'll fill the role or act as clerks while we're finding a full-time clerk to
And
appoint.
they're currently the town clerks with
Mhm.
the, I don't know the second name, but she's the new deputy, not deputy, but the new assistant clerk
Mhm.
in the town.
In the chat, yep.
Okay,
So they.
And my understanding, I guess, is that this is mostly just for them being able to collect the names during the campaign filing period, or the campaign
They're-
filing period.
So, yeah, they're not, we need to find someone to take the minutes of the deliberative too, so we, after we,
Make the ballot.
Ballot,
make
yeah.
the warrant.
Yeah, we've got- yeah.
It's done by the clerk, and it's done by the SAU.
no, clerk, yeah, so we'll have to
so we're still,
figure all that out.
yes,
That's the end of January, but at least we have somebody in place now,
to accept
And-
names for the ballot.
Yeah.
On our behalf,
just.
all right,
That's in January.
because that's in January. So
I see.
where we only have a 3-member board tonight, we want to execute this, a quorum of board members signing this.
That's
Makes
fine.
it satisfactory, okay. So, I look for we have a motion to approve, so, roll call vote, sorry. Roll call vote, Andy,
Aye.
Jeff, sorry, Nate,
Aye.
Kendra,
Aye.
myself, aye, all right, so I can sign this and we can pass them around, correct?
So as Zach mentioned, really the most pressing issue will be when people start filing for office at the end of January. We will need other assistance to include, if we don't fill the position, taking minutes at the deliberative session. So we were giving Trish a really big smile earlier, just wondering if she might be interested in doing that. We're hoping to fill the position. We did do an ad and sent it to Mrs. Withy to put in the bridge, and we posted it on the website. And I didn't put any timelines, I just said if you're interested to email me. I'm just hoping that we could fill it
And that would be an appointee through the March election.
correct.
So
It's a one-year term.
Yes,
Yeah.
normally, but it would just be until the election anyway.
On the
Yeah.
ballot.
Okay.
And it's a stipended position?
There is, but I guess we would have to figure out how that would work if we've got other people doing part of the duties. That would be on a limited basis that this person would need to fill. But I'm not as concerned now that we have Kelly and Diane in place because our filings will be taken care of. We can help with any paperwork at the SAU, and then we just need someone to take the minutes of the deliberative, so.
If you don't have anyone, if it really gets desperate.
I nominate Trish. I'll save it for a couple
I,
weeks.
and I did post it at the post office and the town
Oh,
hall.
thanks. I asked Ashley to have you go around town with it
Yeah.
that time.
Thank you for doing that. All right, so that takes care of that, so we are waiting for hard copies. We do have, do you want to talk about this at all, or wait for
What are you looking at? Oh, the Deerfield report?
the report?
I don't necessarily
Or we just
think,
review it
yeah,
at this
we put
point?
it in the drive just so everybody would have it handy to look at, and then at the next business meeting, we should talk about whether or not we want Concord to come and go over it, or if we just wanna have a meeting like we did last year, where they just come and talk about Concord in general. It's,
So can we publish this?
Yeah.
At this point, it's public anyway,
Yeah.
right? So let's at
you
least
want
get
us to
it,
put it on the website?
yeah, well, at least put it out there so anybody that wants to take a peek at it. can take a peek at it. We can put it
Everything
in
goes
case-
on the board site unless otherwise requested, so if you want it on the school site, we can.
Would you like it on the school site, Nate?
Both-
All right.
both.
Okay. So that, for anybody that's interested in watching at home, we'll get loaded up. It's our annual report from Concord. An interesting bit of data there.
Okay, got it.
All right, warrant articles. Let's talk about warrant articles. You ready? Patty, are you ready?
Yes, I switched my pieces of
You
paper, so
switched
hang on a
gears on me.
second. All right, back to the warrant.
Okay.
All right, number one was the budget, and we did already vote on the bottom line of the budget. I'm assuming there's no other reconsiderations to be made on the budget.
None? All right, do we need to, no, we've already approved that, so, okay, keep going.
Number two, the collective bargaining agreement has already been approved, so the votes are there for that one.
Did we amend the amounts?
For the fourth year.
Yes.
You're correct.
Yes, it was a typo, yep.
And that estimated tax at the bottom there, 29 cents per thousand, that is for the first year.
Correct. The number three, there's no vote needed on that one, sorry, that's the special meeting. Number four is the contract with Concord High School. The highlighted last sentence is that the agreement has been submitted and approved by the State Board of Education, and that's because it has been submitted, but I believe it'll be on their January agenda. So once we get that, we'll fill in the date of that
And
meeting.
are we able to, because that contract will save us money, are we able to put a tax impact on that?
There won't be anything for next year,
Or we,
right?
no.
So
That's
that's
true.
the contract.
Yeah, no, there was a lock on the rate though.
But that's.
Right, but that's not this year, it's not the coming up fiscal year, yeah.
Okay. All right,
So that would be informational, that you would need to share that.
so, okay, and we can put an informational note.
No, I wouldn't put it on in the warrant article, but you do typically, they do a voter guide and other
Okay.
summaries.
I thought in the
and such.
past, Nate, we put information, or is that just in the voter guide? It was never on the ballot, right? No,
Just the voter guide.
Like for the question about the high school, 3 or 4 years ago, it was
there's
like.
two questions, everybody
Questions, it was
neglects
like
to
a paragraph
recall.
question. The question was on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was its
Could we-
own article.
Right, could we change the wording here to include that, or that would be just strictly information? There's no way to
Yeah.
include that.
So the capital
The
fees.
DR,
removed in the new
no, the
contract.
DRA does not typically want to see any extra language.
Because
in
we're a
the
year ahead.
articles.
All right, so then when the voter guide gets, we want to make sure we include that information in the voter guide when we get to that point.
And you can certainly summarize the contract, and that's a major part of it.
And so, if we wanted to, the voter guide is produced by the town,
Yes.
okay.
And they ask me, I think usually it does the summary for the warrant articles, or has been doing
I feel
them.
like I've gotten it at the request at the last minute, like not put a lot of work. I
So,
think if we're gonna, we could start thinking about that.
well, that, and I want to run it past Dean, just to make sure he's happy with it.
Yeah.
Because there is always the annual accusation of electioneering, and
Right.
we've always, just make sure we give them ample time. to make sure. We never have, but
Roughly when that date is, when do they want that?
I don't remember.
with the articles approved.
But it does usually, hey, the voter guide's going out. Do
Like tomorrow.
you want me to email John? He probably knows.
Sure. That would be great.
I just, if we get ahead of it by even a couple weeks.
That's when he's gonna need it.
Article 5,
Okay. Article 5, so this is an article we need to talk about. I did receive clarification for Dean that since we found that revision that on the other trust fund, you don't need to create a trust fund specifically for renovation and site improvement. So we can
we
delete
can
that
strike 5.
unless you wanted to have two different trust funds, but it makes more sense just to use the other.
All right.
Because it's facilities repair and improvement, and we've just been putting the facilities repair on the documents, but the official
So
name
name
is
is
and
improvements.
improvements.
So
So you
then
don't need number 5.
we can strike Article 5 if we're comfortable with that. Does that need a motion?
Nope.
No, okay, so
You haven't voted on it.
Andy, are
It's
you
draft.
okay with striking 5?
It makes sense, yeah.
Okay. 5's gone. Number 6,
Okay, number 6, you voted for already, for $500,000 for the school facilities repair and improvement trust. And that was, for no additional
that is
funds to be
from
raised from
fund
taxation.
balance. So prior to, let's just make sure, are we comfortable as a board, is 500K our number? Not hearing anything? Nods, okay. Moving on.
All right,
We-
number
Neil,
7,
just on 6, typo, after July 1st, 2023 is a question mark. Is that intentional?
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Number,
Number 7 is the sum of $100,000 to be placed in the special education trust fund. And that you haven't voted on that one yet.
so,
We just had to add that, so we.
right,
That's a new addition.
so the first questions are, is the $100,000 number we want to put forward? Does anybody have a different number, or is 100 the number we're comfortable with? It's really the number and the funding mechanism, the two questions I have prior to acting on the article.
Right, right, but we're currently with our proposed budget, we're potentially eating into our, we're anticipating
Might
we
need to.
need to eat in
Right,
perhaps $100,000 is what sort of how we budgeted that.
Mhm.
So I think that makes sense. At the same time, I know it didn't sound like you expressed a lot of confidence in what we had, or in terms of comparison to other towns to start with.
we should bolster that funding
You
on.
know, what I mean, before we're
Yes,
taking 100,
yes.
so would it make sense to add some to that?
The part, on another note, is if we don't have to eat into it and it passes,
You do, you have
now we're
added.
increasing the fund.
That's true.
I mean, I feel okay about it this year. I don't even want to say that out loud, because
That wasn't wood.
that's not either.
That's not wood.
Nobody nearby.
So are we comfortable with the 100K?
Yeah, I guess part of that, is that, you're sounding comfortable, is that based on additional information?
No, it's purely based upon the fact that we've made cuts in that area and never had to dip into the trust. So I'm just going on historical data, but it's always, it is one of those things that, you know, can swing either way, but it can swing either way whether you have a nice trust fund or not. We just don't know.
I think we got
And then the funding mechanism, currently from surplus, or from the fund balance, if there's a fund balance. Do we want to leave it that way, or do we want to raise it appropriate?
So remind me again, the order that these appear.
So
Right,
if
is how
we're,
it's-
if we're funding them from the fund balance, the order that they appear, authority for funding comes from. So if we have a $400,000 fund balance and Article 6 passes and Article 7 were to pass, we would fund $400,000 for Article 6 because it appears first.
Mhm.
And we would only fund the 400K, we would not fund Article 7 because we ran out of balance in the fund.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we should swap six
So that
and
we can
seven.
guarantee funding into 7 and into 6. We can certainly do that.
Just because 6 is like a much bigger chunk of money, obviously.
Or we could also look at changing the funding for 6 to raise an appropriate as well. And those are always, I mean, two sides of the coin. If you take it from fund balance, the optics are that you're not adding taxes, but we're also not putting the money back. So you're kind of anecdotally taking the money out of one pocket and putting it into a different pocket. It still requires the money to have been there in the first place. You're just not giving it back and then raising it, you're just taking it before you give it back.
Do we have any like historical data about what is more likely to be?
We've had I thought you were gonna ask about our fund balance at the end of the year.
No.
We've historically had
Like in terms of
Healthy
warrant
fund
articles, do we know?
We usually fare okay.
I think, yeah, usually.
I'd say
So it's not-
we fare well on warrant articles, and we were on a pretty good streak with the budget for a number of years, and that we've got a little off on that lately.
I wonder, I want to make sure that the special education trust gets funded.
So do you want
So
to,
I wonder if we should raise and appropriate for that in case, or if we should move it up to 6.
We could also change 6 to raise and appropriate
Right.
and leave 7 the way it is. If it's if the special education funding is a priority. That's
If you want to do that, then I would swap them. I would put the special ed as 6 and then
Okay.
have the 7 with raise and appropriate.
I mean, I'm fine with that, if that's the approach we want to take. We have,
So you're saying raise and appropriate the $100,000?
No,
No.
we have from surplus in number 6.
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, I mean, right now, what is on the warrant, or the warrants, sorry, would be 675,000 to raise and appropriate. If we were to pass all of them, we would need to have a $675,000 surplus to fund them all, which is a substantial.
Is this off of this year's? This would be off of this year's.
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
budget.
As
So-
of July 1st.
I think my thought would be to raise and appropriate the 500K.
Yeah.
Fund 7 and 8 from fund balance. And then that, allows the community to determine if they want to commit to investing in the facility or not.
Could also split the difference, which you've done sometimes. And do 250 from surplus and 250 raise and appropriate.
Yeah, which again, it's a mind game to a certain extent.
I mean, there is a risk that
Is
that
it-
you'll get a no vote on a raise and appropriate.
Yeah. Well, and
more than
the
you
other
will
side
on
of
the
it is
surplus.
they all pass and we have a $300,000
Right,
surplus. And
right.
you still don't get
That's
to
right.
accomplish anything, any of the items that you're trying to accomplish. Andy, do you have any thoughts?
I think I like the idea most of the additional potential taxation for the number 6.
Okay.
Because like you said, it lets the community decide where they want to put their money. Because the fund, we could fund 7 and 8 through the balance, which is good and healthy. And then I think the only follow-up I would have is, Patty, I don't know off the top of my head, do we have a historical trend of the fund balance?
We do, Amber usually puts that in the binder, I think. Let me look.
So while you're, so do we want to change number 6 to raise and appropriate from taxation? Is that the,
So do we want to keep the order?
well, if
you
number
raise and
6 is raised and appropriated, the order doesn't matter. If it passes, you're
So
raising.
raise and appropriate all of it,
Yeah,
rather than raising and appropriate the remaining amount.
no, it would just be to raise and appropriate. And then if you had 175,000 in fund balance and 7 and 8 were to pass, you would fund 7 and 8, and then the balance goes
So then you might have some left over to give back.
offset, give the select board a use to offset taxes. Again, it's a left pocket, right
As
pocket.
opposed to the way we did it this last year.
Right, this last year, the way the article was amended at deliberative was the $1 million was to be raised from fund balance, was to take the fund balance plus whatever was necessary, raise and appropriate the difference. The language from the article. And that would have fun.
Andy, do you want me to read you the numbers for the past? In the budget binders on page 47, which you probably have, there's a longer history, but I can go over last year was a little bit of an anomaly because 866,000 was applied toward the $1 million warrant article, and that was done at the deliberative session. The year before 2021, you returned 923,000. 2020, you returned 292. 2019, you returned 710. And before that, it was 388. So it's been all over the place.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
So,
Sorry.
Andy. the
No,
years-
you're being helpful, but the data is not helpful.
Yeah.
Well, the large years were also during COVID when we were operating in a
Yep.
very unique set of circumstances.
Yep, 2019.
So 19 and 20 and 21 were all COVID operation years. If you go pre-COVID, the numbers start to change pretty drastically.
That's true.
So pre-COVID, we were 388, 478, 378, 335, 120, 160, 145, going back to 2012. So the abnormally large surpluses all coincide with that COVID block.
And grants.
And
Right.
grants,
Grants were flowing.
yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of factors that make those numbers look the way they look that are not necessarily reflective of normal reality.
So the numbers you just threw out, the average, not including COVID years, would be about 310K in surplus.
You're
So-
probably a little bit less,
Yeah.
depending on how
If
far
you-
back
yeah, if
you
you
go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
So
just
you
thinking, I don't know if it's just creating, additional work, but I almost like Patty's idea where we're then potentially splitting 6 into raise and appropriate, and then another quantity coming from surplus.
Like we did it this year.
Was that this year or last year? Yeah.
Last year. So you would want to raise, we'd raise we want to take 250 from surplus for number 6 or fund balance and then raise and appropriate an additional 250. Is that one article or 2 articles? That's 2 articles.
Mhm.
So it'd be a new Article 7 or basically replace.
Well, yeah, you have to
Article 5.
decide what order you want
Yeah.
it to be.
So I think I'm more of an advocate, Andy, myself, of the raise and appropriate the whole 500 in my mind, and then fund 7 and 8 from the fund balance, if there is one. But it's board's decision, so.
When's the last year that we've given money back to offset taxes?
Every year but last year. Because last year, the money went to fund the $1 million article. That's right. But up until then, we've always given something back.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, in an effort to move along here, if we go back to Article 6, I move that we change language in Article 6 to raise and appropriate.
Second.
I have a motion by myself, a second by Kendra. Additional discussion? Seeing none, we're gonna vote. Andy?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Myself, aye.
Aye.
Kendra's aye. All right, so we're gonna change Article 6, which will ultimately become Article 5, I presume,
Yes.
to raise and appropriate. That brings us down to Article 7. So on Article 7, it's currently written with no amount to be raised from taxation, funding from the fund balance at 100K. We want to bump that, seeing as we've now liberated potential funding to 150, or do we want to leave it at 100, or what do we want to do?
I'm okay with leaving it where it is based on previous conversations.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so are we comfortable with Article 7 as written?
Yes.
So I look for a motion to approve Article 7 as written.
So moved.
Second.
Kendra, seconded by Nate. Additional discussion? Andy?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Myself, aye.
Aye.
Kendra's an aye. So it's going to be 4-0 in this particular case, right?
And that's gonna become number 6.
That will be renumerated number 6. So Article 8 is the School Facility Paving Trust Fund. Adding some more into that fund for the upper parking lot. So, anybody have any changes they want to make to that article?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Based on conversation earlier about the school facilities repair and improvements expendable trust fund, does this now not fall under that, or we need to exhaust the funds in that trust? Basically, do they overlap?
The paving trust was set up specifically for paving. It was purposeful. It was, we have all this paving we need to get done.
We have
And-
money still.
Yeah, and so, you can dissolve that trust once you're done, and return taxes. You can keep it open to finish your paving projects and then dissolve it and start using the other to put money aside. It's really at your discretion.
I would say, Andy, my take on that is if we are going to use that 75K to pave that upper parking lot, and that becomes, and the community is aware of that, I do not see that article failing. The 500 could, but the paving of that parking lot has been a hot topic for a number of years, and I don't see that article not succeeding.
Are we confident that 75 is enough for the project?
We could, well, we have
We have some
we already have
Plus the
funds and we can always supplant it from the facilities repair and
Okay.
improvement trust fund if we need to tap into that for a little bit of the work. Which, we got any elevations yet? I'd like to get that wrapped up and up to bid. Can you?
I agree.
Will you poke
Again?
again, please?
I've poked that bear several times.
Please poke again, so that we can call the meetings with the planning board and the conservation
Yeah.
commission and start that process, but I'd like to get that out to bid this spring.
He said he was working on it at the last poke.
We need to be on deck for that project for as soon as school lets out. All right, so as far as what's being presented is Article 8, which we've never enumerated, but Article 8 as it's currently written, anybody have any changes? Look for a motion to approve Article 8 as written.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kendra, seconded by Nate. Additional discussion. All right, Andy, go.
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
myself, Kendra.
Aye.
All right, Article 8 is approved 4-0. Can I talk about Article 9, because I kind of
Yeah,
started
go
this
ahead.
off? All right, so Article 9, earlier this week, I asked Patty to pull the language to draft an article that would give the voters an opportunity to determine if they want to continue operating as under SB2, which is our current model, or if we want to go back to town meeting model for the school district. My mentality in this is, I think anecdotally, we've all heard, people thinking about the old days and town meeting, and the ability to, it worked differently, it worked better, and, a lot of people have said they wish we could go back. I won't necessarily voice a personal opinion, but I think if the community, this article gives the community an opportunity to determine how they want their governance to work. And so if we don't place it on the ballot, they never have an opportunity to change their governance and the way that it functions. So by placing it on the ballot, it allows the community to decide, do you want to go back to the town meeting or do you want to continue operating under our current form of I did speak with a member of the select board prior to their meeting and kind of gave them a heads up that I was planning on having this conversation tonight. I believe I wasn't at the select board meeting, but I believe he kind of started the same conversation with the select board as well. And sounds like the select board is interested in possibly floating a similar article to give the town the ability to decide on their end if they want to continue with SB2 after 20-ish years, maybe a little bit more than that.
2005.
Was it 2005? I think it was 2000, a little bit before that. But after a long enough period of time, we now know what it is, and maybe the community wants to go back to the old days, maybe they don't. So,
When the last time it was on ballot?
prior to my time,
Really? I thought this was on last.
I don't
I
think,
don't remember what year. I actually found the language, so we drafted it
I don't,
from the old
Previous
warrant.
one.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she didn't say what year it was.
so I don't recall it being on the ballot in my time. We did float a question at one point, or a question was floated, it was petitioned in to make the budget committee advisory.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right, 2001.
That was petitioned in a number of years ago. I don't recall when I would have last seen this SB2 town meeting question. So,
So for those of us who were not in New Hampshire when SB2 was voted in.
Yeah.
Do you have a primer on the difference? I know there's like the town hall meeting instead of voting.
so if you think of,
Have you experienced the deliberative session yet? Deliberative session?
I should have one last
it's
year.
deliberative session, but the end result is the decisions are made in deliberative session, and the election is basically to elect officers
For
People.
town hall, you're talking about.
for town,
Correct.
for the town and the school side.
Town
So
meeting.
you would go to a school district meeting.
Mhm.
Everybody comes in. If you're there, you have a vote.
Okay,
We all sit down, we hammer it out. You go through the budget, you go through the warrant articles, you sit there, and it can, there was times it took all day. But at the end of it, it was done. And everybody was there and had an opportunity to have an opinion and a voice and determine it. And you walked out of the room knowing exactly what your budget was, and you walked out of your room knowing if you were buying the police cars or if you were funding the parking lot or whatever it may be.
so the only thing on the ballot would be
The election.
candidates.
Yep.
Okay,
of-
so
yeah.
warrant articles, not.
They
Those are
were,
just,
yeah.
the warrant articles are decided that day.
It still looks the same, but
Okay.
it's at the deliberative session
I
you
see.
decide.
Yeah.
You don't decide what goes on gets voted on the next time, it's you decide.
Yeah.
Right then and there.
Got it.
So the debate happens, you hear both sides, the voters are informed, that's the behind it. You know your community members.
Yeah.
Rather than just vote, anonymously showing up to vote.
And it also, you kind of have to, you have to take part in the conversation. So, we typically don't arrow, but I'm in,
Just a point, you're thinking 3 sessions, it's actually, I think, just 2 sessions. So there's not a later session to vote officers, isn't it just town meeting and school meeting?
you have a
You-
No,
ballot.
there's
There's
still an
There's
election
still
of
a-
there's still an
officers.
It
election
doesn't happen,
Yeah.
right?
That happens on the voting day.
So
Okay.
voting day just
Sorry,
becomes
my apologies.
Yeah. Board of Selectmen and Planning Board, and School Board and all that kind of stuff. So anyhow, so ultimately, I asked Patty to get it together for us to discuss. I think the town can't decide if they're not given the opportunity to decide. They may shoot it down, they may approve it, we don't know, but it certainly doesn't hurt anybody to throw it out there. So that being said, I'll make the motion. I'd move to approve Article 9 as written.
Second.
Moved by myself, seconded by Nate. Any additional discussion?
This is.
I just have clarification. So this is non-binding. It's informational, seeking from the community.
No, this would be binding. If this was to pass with the 3/5 vote, we would revert back to a school district meeting. If it passes, so if the town puts it on and passes on the town side, the town would then have a town meeting in traditional New England fashion.
I mean, frankly, I haven't heard from anybody in the community that this is good or bad. The way that, SB2 functions today, and if I'm understanding correctly, it's going to remove the uncertainty coming out of the deliberative on, what's going to happen on election day. Is that what we're talking about in a nutshell?
Oh, I think the certainty just happens on meeting day.
Yeah,
And
that's right, Andy, and that's part of the frustration that you don't get a lot of attendance at the deliberative, and some people would assert that you have uninformed voting. That some people feel that it's important to vote, and they go and they vote, but they're not making really informed decisions sometimes.
So then kind of following on what you said, Patty, are votes cast the day
Yes.
the session that Zach's talking about happens?
Yes, and you're also allowed to call for a ballot vote, and you have to have boxes there and ballots, and so you can vote on any of the articles, and somebody can just submit that they want to cast a ballot for any vote, and then you just you set everything up, everybody gets in line, they go through, then they count them, and then they announce the results right then and there for any particular warrant article.
But yeah, Andy, that is where the vote happens, rather than voting in a voting booth. It's in the town meeting.
You get a voter card, you raise your card, count the votes, and that's the decision
And so
for
it's
each
final.
one.
Yeah, that day it's final.
So it certainly, like I said, it creates the opportunity for the community to decide on their governance. All right, any additional discussion?
3/5 is what is required.
3/5, yep. All right, Andy,
I'm going to abstain from this one.
Nate,
Aye.
myself, aye.
Aye.
All right. So that's going to be 3-0-1. Okay. That wraps up warrant articles unless, Nate, go.
The 3/5 language there at number 9, soon to be number 8, should that be on the contract as well with Concord? Or no?
I don't know.
This card,
We submitted this to Dean. He didn't add 3/5.
will you just verify that with him?
I absolutely will. And then this article has not gone to Dean. We took it off of a prior. So if there was any statutory change, he would fix the language and edit it, and we'll deal with that at that time.
Is 3/5 needed for the contract?
He didn't say it was, so that leads me to believe no. but I'm gonna verify that.
But if it is, it needs to be in writing.
It does,
Yes.
yes, so we'll add it if
Should that go to
it's-
Dean or should that go to?
Gordon wrote the language, and then Gordon said certainly run it by Dean as well, because he reviews our entire warrant.
Okay.
So Gordon drafted
That's
it,
two.
went to Dean, and then he made like a couple of,
Please,
edits, nothing substantive.
verify that, please.
Substantive. Yes, I will.
Thank you. All right. That,
And we think that that language came back from the January meeting of the state board. Hopefully it's on the agenda.
It's been submitted, they have to wait for someone to come back from Christmas break to tell me for sure that it's gonna be on the agenda.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why they wouldn't put it on.
and do we have to speak at that meeting or is it just a rubber stamp?
Last time, no one went, and asked Dean if we should go and have representation, but last time,
Do we have any representation there when it's discussed?
didn't last time.
Okay.
But, I'll ask Dean what he advises. I don't know that they're gonna ask the board, I don't think they typically would ask any questions because it's a negotiated contract. It's kind of a done deal. And they have the first contract, they have the second contract, and they have the proposed contract. I sent them a whole packet. So they could see that hasn't changed a whole lot, that it was approved 2 prior times.
Continuing.
Yep.
And last thing about that, number 4 is that it does not need a, school recommends NBC, the NBC does not get to weigh in.
There's no vote required.
And number 4. Now, the board obviously is recommending it.
Yes, but they didn't put a vote on there.
Okay.
I think sometimes it's not required. You put it on for approval. That's why we send them to be vetted, and I go with what they tell us to do.
All right, same thing for article. It's good, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
I just do what the lawyers tell us to do when they make their edits.
typically works
I
better for us
just
that
try
way.
to follow what they say.
All right, so we've addressed both items under number 5, for A and B. We do not have a non-public. So that brings us back around to public comments. Mr. Rhodes, do you have any additional comments as the
I
sole
wasted
member of the
it
public?
during the meeting.
We'll throw you one more if you'd like it, sir.
No, every time I've heard people talk about, I've never been to a town meeting. So every time I've heard people talk about it, it's been in the context of 2 meetings, not, that's why I raised the question.
Yeah.
You go there, you're done, and as I think you said, Mr. Lang, there's a connection issue. You have to participate,
Yes.
which is what makes people pine for it.
Mhm.
But I never got the sense that there was yet another meeting that where you elected people, but it makes sense.
All right. The days of old. Okay. So I think that satisfies public comments. We, I think, can call this one a wrap. If anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
It requires a roll call. Everybody say yes.
Aye.
Aye, all right. It is, I'll call it 6:47. We are adjourned. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you for coming out, and I hope everybody has a great holiday, and we will all see each other after the 1st. Awesome. Thank you.
We'll be held